I also want to add here that by no means is this session uh, you know inclusive of all the different nuances and the methodologies that come under social impact assessment. There certainly are many directions that and much more content available on this that applies to specific use cases, specific objectives, that we will not be able to cover today. In the 1 hour that we'll cover, it will be the basics around social impact assessments, methodologies. I will introduce a case study, hopefully at 30 or 35 minutes, and have you guys really understand how the social impact assessments are done in real world situations. And yeah, that's it. And any comment from the organizer?
Ma'am, of course, we welcome you for this webinar, and I request you to continue by a way.
Okay.
I'm making you the co-host so that you can share this.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes, ma'am. Now we can proceed.
Wonderful. Okay. Okay, so let me first introduce myself. I see that there are 23 participants. So, some of this information I'll try to go slower. So some of those who have not joined can, join and participate in this. Okay, so the topic today is social impact assessment. My name is Janvi Gandhi Kanakya. I have a PhD in actually migration studies. I graduated in 2016. I work as a principal researcher with a organization called Impact Dash. I have had many different varied experiences with research and specifically on impact research, but from different standpoints. So when I was a faculty member at TISS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai, I from the academic point of view, from writing about impact assessments, that remained an important lens through which I saw this topic. Since then, being on the implementation side, on the nonprofit and consulting side, I saw how impact assessments are implemented on technology, on the ground, where you can see the impact on people's lives, really. And now we at Impact Dash, I advise people on how to amplify their impact, on how to think about impact, not in terms of just numbers, but also the improvement in the quality of life within whatever legal framework and capacities that people can actually influence. If there are any questions, feel free to interrupt. I just wanted to know, is it possible for people to unmute themselves?
Yes, ma'am. I think it's possible.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Bhaskar. All right, so I'll move on. So social impact assessment, the 4 key motivations for an SIA is, I think the first very important one is to demonstrate the effectiveness of these initiatives to stakeholders. You have to understand the effectiveness of stakeholders cannot effectiveness of initiatives to stakeholders cannot be taken into account if you don't go and collect their opinions and their understanding at the very beginning. So this is the first and the most important step. Second is to make better decisions driven by data. So the data that you collect from the stakeholders on the initiatives and assessing whether they will be effective or not, this is again at the planning stage, you start to gather data that will help you make better decisions at different points of the program project implementation. Similarly, to make informed grant making or investment. So again, this is from the perspective of a donor. So when a donor is providing grants or making donations or investments in certain geographies, having conducted an SIA, a social impact assessment, is very important, so that you are taking into account a lot of the factors that are not pertaining to the financials, but really what happens on the ground when a program is implemented. You are incorporating the risks in the decision making, in the grant making, and you are capturing, monitoring the risks while the program is going on. And the monitoring piece of it is something that often gets left out. But it has been standardized for the last 15-20 years. There have been international frameworks that in some ways really force big corporations' hands in making investments on the social aspects of projects, and they also mandate social impact assessments for this very reason, that the benefits of manufacturing, the benefits of infrastructure should also focus on meeting your last mile beneficiary. So having a good monitoring system is important. And in order to have that good monitoring system, it's important to take into account the social impacts of a intervention. Now, the fourth motivation for an SIA is actually strategic thinking and to inculcate long-term perspective. Now, what do I mean by that? So SIA is not something that happens, in a silo, in a corner somewhere, that, you give it to an organization, they do it, and you're done. It involves that the findings from the SIA are incorporated into the strategic thinking of the project. So you have the entire project staff, right from the people at the top, who are involved in strategic thinking based on the findings from SIA, and have a long-term vision. Because you must understand that projects that are implemented in a certain geography, they are not going away anywhere. People who live there for years, who have generational influence in the region, they are also not going away anywhere. So it's important to coexist in a way where everyone feels heard. The next line that I've written down is on the social stock exchange. So now the social stock exchange in India, which is where ICMAI is also very strongly involved, given the social auditors who are part of this conversation. So it encourages NGOs to adopt a robust impact measurement and reporting practice, enhancing transparency and accountability. So one is to measure impact, but what comes much before impact is all the components that make impact happen. And that's where you have to understand the entire cycle of impact, from what you give into a project to what you receive in terms of outcome. Now, if you have good a good robust log frame, which is what we call it, and I'll get into it shortly, you have good reporting practices because it's standardized. You know that all project teams understand what it is to do to capture all of these components. This way, you are enhancing transparency because you create certain dashboards from this data that's collected on a quarterly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, feedback you're getting from your project participants. It opens it up to transparency across the organization. So you are not left to do an assessment at an annual level, but you are having that transparency within the organization right from the beginning, and also have that kind of accountability. So this is an important point, especially for large organizations or large corporations, multilateral organizations, where often data is collected at different levels, And the validation and verification of the data that's collected is often not, even if it may be standardized, it's important to make sure that at every level you have the person who's collected the data, their accountability. And this ensures that in the long run, whatever you have in place to inform your social impact assessment, that has been clear from the beginning, and your outcomes, the project outcomes, can be explained because you have a robust impact measurement model. Stop here for a second if there are any questions. Okay, and moving on. The 3 W's of SIA. So I think this will resonate with some of you who are still with me. What, how, and why. It's important here that we understand the primary goal of SIA, because it is to anticipate, mitigate, and manage social consequences of planned interventions. This includes infrastructure projects. There's a highway being constructed. There are people who have to be evacuated from those regions in order to construct that highway. And you need to make sure that there is an SIA done in order to ensure that they are respectfully, in a dignified way, evacuated and given displacement compensations in line with compensation requirements from the government, in compliance with that. Changes in government, so any policy shifts that happen, you want to make sure that a new circular doesn't completely shift up your project and program goals, right? And climate risks, which are very everyday occurrences for many regions in the world, where you're anticipating and mitigating those risks and making sure that you're doing it in line with stakeholders like the affected people, as well as the compliance mechanisms. And so many such things are taken care of if you do a social impact assessment and if you plan it alongside your programs. How do you do it? I think this might be something on a lot of your minds, because this is a fairly new mechanism to some of you who are joining me today. So there are some strategies and tools. I'll shortly discuss it with you. But the main thing to remember when you are hearing from me on the strategies and tools to conduct SIA is that the objectives and outcomes of the assessment are the ones that finally determine the study. So it's important that what is it that you want to achieve, you as a project, you as an individual running the project, you need to have those locked down, and then you move backwards in terms of doing the whole project management, deciding the tools that you will use to conduct the SIA, and what are the outcomes you will expect to communicate with your teams. So it's important to have that. And the final one is, why do you need to do an SIA? I mean, I'm sure for some of you, SIA feels like, what is the need? So the need is that social equity and justice are principles and paradigms, really, that can risk project success. So let me give you an example. The same example of the highway being constructed. Should you not do an SIA to construct the highway? What will result is that there can be the people who are affected may find themselves homeless. People who were not homeless before will become homeless after. And there are civil society organizations, there are RTIs that you can file that can potentially stop the construction of the highway. And similarly, it can also lead to many political interventions because of the bad press or bad public relations that can occur from people asking questions regularly through different mediums. So social equity and justice is something that should be incorporated as a part of your project planning. And the impact of an intervention should be planned in such a way that you find a win-win for all stakeholders. What often happens when you're doing this is that you don't even map the stakeholders involved, and that again is a blind spot, and that should also be taken into account. Just pause for any questions here. All right. Moving on, please feel free to stop me because a lot of this is things that you can easily ask me while I'm speaking about it. So it just helps. Sorry, I've got a comment from someone. Mr. Dwarkanath Acharya. He has said SIA is primarily after the project is done. Impact outcome report standardization is evolving and yet to see robust report or assessment. Reports are uploaded by May 31st of this year. Thank you for that comment, Mr. Acharya. So let me give you a completely different perspective. So what you are suggesting is that what you're suggesting here is that impact outcome and report is done towards the end because sometimes the standardization itself is evolving. The reports, even though the reports are uploaded only once a year, the reporting or the monitoring of it should be continuous, is what we are recommending. The communication of the findings should be continuous, and the evolution of the indicators that you use to monitor the project should also be continuous. Similarly, capacity building of people who are part of this should be continuous. So at no point, even though a report is finally uploaded on May 31st of every year, it doesn't mean that internally as an organization, you are not using SIA as a primer to fix your processes. I hope this helps. Okay. All right, and move on. Okay, strategies and tools to conduct SIA. Now, typically a baseline study is conducted to gather information. I think, Mr. Acharya, this will help answer some of your confusion around at what point do you do an SIA. So, baseline studies are usually designed in the planning stage before the program even gets implemented. So, you gather information about the current social, economics, cultural, and environmental conditions in the affected area. Typically, there are many methodologies, again, influenced by the questions that you've designed. So, there are ways in which you, break the communities into categories, and then you interview and gather information on different demographics, on qualitative information on what they do, how they do, what their livelihoods are, and so on, based on the questions, like I said. You gather all this information and you create a baseline study where you explain the methodology based on the questions. I'm saying this 2-3 times because, again, this is something that should not ideally change. Next is a stakeholder analysis. I'm not saying that all of these strategies and tools should be done. Not all of them need to be done. If they're all done, it's very, very good. But, it depends on the type of project as well that you are undertaking, on which strategies or tools you'll use. Stakeholder analysis is typically more participatory. So you gather information about current social, economic, cultural, and environmental conditions, again, from different stakeholders. And sometimes when you have a participatory approach, you involve people in focus group discussions, where you have everyone speak on certain subjects and you understand the disparity and the differences and what they feel. Next is forecasting. Forecasting is typically done when you are building an infrastructure project and so on. So it's to develop strategies to mitigate, prevent, and minimize adverse impacts and enhance positive ones. This may involve redesigning the project, implementing compensation measures, or creating community development programs. Forecasting requires a lot many data points. And similarly, it requires a lot more compliance-related work that goes into the planning stage. Monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Establish mechanisms for monitoring the implementation of mitigation measures and evaluate the actual impacts of the project over time. This is what I have been trying to speak about. One thing that I haven't written in terms of explanation is the learning component. A lot of international and multilateral organizations now talk about the learning from the programs. One cannot think that just monitoring projects and evaluating how the projects are doing, that the learning that happens at a project level from working with communities is not incorporated. So there needs to be periodic revisions of the monitoring and evaluation framework, and that needs to happen as an important strategy. Sure. Megha, I think you asked me to explain with practical examples. I will get to a case study, like I said at the beginning, where you will be able to implement a lot of these principles that I'm talking about. It's important at this point that I introduce you to this so that you can do your further reading as we move forward. And Mr. Acharya has also put another comment saying that skill set training, capacity building, change in mindset, and focus on reporting, many NPOs are still ill-equipped for such rigorous assessments. Yes, indeed. Compliance and documentation. SIA must comply with applicable laws and regulations governing environmental and social assessments. I said this, that a lot of policy shifts happen within this area. And it's important that you have the latest on it, and not just national or regional legislation, but also certain international standards where your project applies, and to make sure that you are ranking yourself against those. It's really important. For example, World Bank has come out with a scorecard where even though you are doing a small intervention in a particular sector, let it be education or it can be livelihoods, or it can be health. If you're doing an intervention, you need to track it against, let's say, an SDG. SDG 4, which talks about quality of education, you need to have a certain way that if you are providing, improving learning outcomes for children in project area A, you need to have those results that are mapped against the quality of education indicator that is designed by Sustainable Development Goals. So it's important to have, that kind of, big picture thinking when you are thinking about social impact assessments. Just stopping here for a second.
Ma'am, these strategies and tools, they're going to be a continuous thing, right? It's not going to be right at the start. Like as we progress, we will be learning more and we'll be doing it, right?
Yeah, very good question, Bhaskar. Can you tell me a little bit more? What do you mean? Are all of these continuous?
Like, say, baseline study, you've done something and you find, at that point, it's fine. But as you go along, you find that what assumptions you have done is wrong, or
Mm.
maybe something more to be done. So you will
Yeah.
have to go have a course correction, right?
Yes, absolutely. And this is why with a baseline study, you also have a midline study and an endline study, Bhaskar. Thank you for bringing this
Okay,
point up.
okay, yeah.
Absolutely critical that the assumptions and risks that are captured at the beginning, you course correct at the project level, but you also go back and study if those course corrections have led to an improvement in the outcomes. It's really, really important and mandated in some cases where they continually evaluate if course corrections at the project level have led to positive outcomes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll move on. We have only 30 minutes and a lot of ground to cover. So this is an interesting one because I covered a lot of the monitoring and evaluation part. And I have also covered a little bit of the program implementation part. So when you put them side by side, you have an interesting way of seeing them, where you have a problem statement. Let's say the problem statement is that children are going to school but are not learning according to their according to their class that they study in, right? That's a problem statement. Now the strategy is that you design certain objectives that we will provide remedial classes on in the affected areas, and we will see how learning outcomes from the baseline to the end line, how they are improving for classes A, B, C, D. Okay, and then you bring up implementer 1, 2, and 3. So you have 3 implementation partners or implementation approaches if you're directly implementing it yourself. And then you connect your strategy with your monitoring and evaluation plan with indicators. What do I mean by that? Indicators is, are the children able to read a sentence? Are they able to read out loud to their siblings? There are something called proxy indicators. Are the children able to write? Are the children able to have a comprehension abilities? So those are kind of indicators that you create along with your team. Next, informed by data sources. So then you inform your decisions around the program of the learning problem that you have amongst the children through different kinds of data sources. One is a research and evaluation. So you conduct on-off studies independently or by program teams. Sorry. Okay, and you do surveys, which can be independent national surveys, and you do routine monitoring data. So this is something that I said, very important, that you have monitoring regularly on the indicators that you have designed. Okay, moving on. Okay, I wanted to bring a participatory SIA to your attention, because while there are many different approaches to SIA, and I didn't want to use a lot of jargon to confuse all of you, but a participatory SIA can be pretty powerful. Why? Because they promote certain principles such as inclusivity and diversity. So you ensure participation from a broad and representative cross section of the society, of the community. You have capacity building, providing training and support to enable effective participation. Transparency and accountability, I covered this in my first slide. Maintaining openness about processes, findings, and decisions. And you have cultural sensitivity. This is especially applicable in certain areas where projects are run where there are tribal areas or sub-tribal zones. And it's important that there is respect and integration with local customs, languages, and knowledge systems, which is often missing from the mainstream. So it's important to have that. And then sustainability and ownership. It's important to have local ownership in the process. what we often find, especially with CSR programs, is that one of the biggest complaints from people who have implemented these programs is that they see a good they see good being done in their community, but they don't actually see it as local ownership. They see it as something that a company has done for them, and they are supposed to enjoy it, but not actually take ownership, maintain it, and ensure continuous engagement with it. So it's important to foster a participatory SIA at the beginning, so that locals feel like they have a long-term engagement with the intervention that you have designed. Yeah, Mr. Acharya has a comment for everyone. Yes, participatory SIA encourages capacity building, training, and equip the NPO to put the system in place and ideas to improve the project outcome. That's correct. Oops. All right. All right. So I will quickly wait for any questions, or we'll just jump directly into theory of change. Okay. So typically, theory of change is a statement that is made, which comes prior to defining the objectives. It means that you, as an organization, are defining what is it that you plan to change in the long run through an intervention that you make. So if I have to take an example of learning outcomes, you can create a theory of change based on what is it that you want to eventually change. Is it just learning outcomes, or are you looking at these children finally going to pursue higher education? Is it to reduce dropout? Is it to ensure that there is better transformation in terms of the livelihood opportunities? So it's important to design that. And how do you practically actually track that in a logic model? And this is how the logic model has come about, because earlier there was no practical way of capturing a theory of change for organizations. So it's important that you track the input. What are the resources needed to take action? So in this whole example of learning resources, of improving learning outcomes for children, the resources typically are study material, training of teachers, training of trainers. Then it requires that you also provide tables, benches, infrastructure if necessary. What is the activity that you're conducting on a quarterly basis, or a monthly basis, or a weekly basis? And those activities need to be standard. Then you create outputs, which is in relationship with the activity. So let's say the activity is conducting conducting reading sessions or storytelling sessions with children every Monday. Okay, if that's one activity, you have to see what is the output of that. The output can be that the children's attendance in the storytelling sessions are at 70% capacity. That's the output. Okay, and again, this can be these are outputs that are often aspirational, that you can input. Again, at midline surveys, you can assess if those outputs are actually achieved. The outcome that you may want from that activity of storytelling sessions is that you have champions from the community who begin doing the storytelling sessions for the children. So what are the wider benefits of the work is something that you can be captured in an outcome. And then finally, impact. What is the long-term change that we see as our goal? So at an annual level, how many champions have you encouraged from the community who are able to take on the storytelling sessions. So that's the impact. Any questions? Okay.
Ma'am, one question here.
Yes.
In this series, you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from inputs to impact, right? So practically, how it goes? Is it with the resources?
Sorry, your voice is breaking. Your
That
voice.
they will plan this. Am I audible?
I just heard about how do you practically do it from at the resource level, and then I missed the rest.
So is it from resources point of view, you consider the inputs and then see how much impact you derive, or is it you plan the impact and the outcomes and then you budget your resources? How it will be planned actually?
Right. Yeah. A very good question. I'm glad you brought it up. So yes, budgeting typically happens around. So there are different approaches. Again, here, there are organizations who attach budgets to the output only. Okay, but in the world that we live today, given that metrics are really important, more and more organizations are pushing towards results-based monitoring, which means you also include outcome as an important way to budget and to assess how well the programs are doing. So it's no longer enough that children have high attendance in the storytelling sessions, but it is a lot more effective if there are more champions that you create for the storytelling sessions.
Namaskar, ma'am. I'm CA Rakesh Chaudhary speaking. CA Rakesh Chaudhary. I wanted to know about the social impact assessment indicators and the assessment scorecard, how it is the scores are created.
Right. Sorry, I think the earlier speaker wanted to add something else. I'll just come to your question, Mr. Chaudhary. How is plan? Okay, Mr. Verma has written his question. How it's planned based on impact or input, the resources. So I think your question, Mr. Verma, requires a lot bigger, a lot more detailed answer. So I'm happy to take it post the session if
Sure.
you want to reach out to me. And Mr. Chaudhary, your question is around how do you create the scorecard, right? We'll get to this. I have some slides that will help you see it, to visualize it really. So I'll move on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so these are this is specific to a skill training example of a skill training workshop where you have to look at the social use case and the business use case, right? The business use case that you want to achieve is you want to increase the pool of effective drivers. Let's say this is a skill development program to ensure that more people learn to drive. The business use cases, you want to increase the pool of effective drivers who understand vehicle dynamics and are comfortable with different terrains, right? But on the output side, on the social side, you want youth to gain skills on safe driving. It's important to keep both of these pieces in mind when you do your analysis and your study. And then outcome is increase in income and decrease in accidents and loss of life. And the business use cases, the fleet utilization, the upkeep is good. There's improved fuel efficiency. Do you see how different the business and the social use cases are? It's important to keep, to have both of these in mind when you're doing an assessment. But if you don't start with an SIA, then you will never have the social side. You will only focus on the business side, and which is missing out on an important component to develop ownership from the communities. So Yeah, I just got a comment from Mr. Acharya saying that training of trainers is a sort of mapping of social. Did you mean TOT as training of trainers? I'm not sure of this comment. Again,
The TOT is the theory of change.
theory of change. Okay, it's TOC. Okay, yeah. It is sort of mapping of social change. That's correct. Mr. Swaroop has put a message here: how to measure subjective aspects of an individual, such as honesty, integrity, and other such values. Thank you so much for this question, and definitely a very important, qualitative indicator that we can assess. Let me take this on. Let me just move on to the next slide because it explains this very question. A well-designed impact assessment can capture many of the real impacts of a project on people's life, whether positive or negative, intended or unintended. So examples of impact indicators. Quantitative would be increased milk consumption, income from crop sales, value of financial assets. Qualitative is trust, confidence, hope, status, participation, voice, security. So Mr. Swaroop, how do you capture that? It's really, really important that you capture, qualitative indicators, qualitative impact as much as you capture quantitative impact. And the way to go about doing it is using scales sometimes. Sometimes it's to do, targeted questionnaires with certain members of the community that you think, are the important stakeholders, again, determined by your research questions. It's also important to, understand that honesty, integrity, and other such values, you can create case studies of people who have benefited on these levels, by telling their story. You can use storytelling as a mechanism, but really capturing it in terms of impact can be very, very complicated, and it will really depend on what is the story that you want to tell. I hope I answered that. All right, so to answer, I think somebody had asked this question about how do you actually go about doing the ranking. So here is a quote: a good impact assessment process can create space for dialogue, and the results can provide a basis for discussions on how to improve programming and where best to allocate future resources. This is a really important process. And this is why when I was promoting a participatory SIA is for this reason, that there is learning happening at different levels where all the stakeholders are involved in programming, and strategic decision making is done using evidence, so that resources are not wasted. Okay. And then how do you go about, what are the useful methods for measuring impact? Okay, it can be simple scoring, simple ranking even. So let's say that, you've done 5 different, interventions in education, in, equity, on women's development, on women's empowerment. So you can, based on the SIA that you get, based on the project data that you get, you can create a ranking. You can create a scoring based on the monitoring data you have. You can do a before and after scoring, which is again possible. Pairwise ranking, matrix ranking, these are all methods that are regularly used in order to get the most accurate data and the most accurate strategy from the data collected in the field. Any questions? Okay. All right, so we have about 15 minutes for this case study, and one more slide that I have here, which is on the international SIA framework. So this is what we have at the moment. So the Navi Mumbai International Airport is an interesting case study. The reason I chose this is because I was involved in an MPhil work many years ago, conducted by a researcher on how the SIA, all the SIA completely ignored the project affected persons and their points of view, because of which the entire project got delayed by many, many years. It started back in 2012, and it's 2024, and it's still in the process of in a development. So this case study is interesting because there's a lot of public material out there on what are the ways in which, because there was no comprehensive social impact assessment done, or the results from the social impact assessments were not implemented, it led to many, many delays in the project. So there were public hearings. There was a case of how the mangroves that were destroyed and the ecological hazards that that were created, including, if you see the picture of a woman with the fishes, a lot of people lost their livelihoods. It was a fisheries community in the village of Ulve, and the mangroves were an important way to, stop flood, to manage floods, which is also very common during monsoons in the area. So a lot of like local activists and community organizations, civil society organizations came up and said that, no, our voice has not been heard, and while this land is being tilled and developed, there are also rivers that have been diverted, and that can lead to very major climate risks once the airport is constructed, because the outcomes they're expecting from the NMIA is also significant. They want it to be an alternative to the Mumbai International Airport with very, very high, flight, numbers of passengers and flights, international flights that come in. So those kind of outcomes can get, intersected by not taking into considerations the environmental risks. So the EIA manual guidance report was created. Project affected persons, created a little bit of a, situation of stopping for almost a couple of years on this. But then there was a change of ownership in 2020, and now this international airport is run in a little bit more, at least the communication of what's happening is a little bit more streamlined. This is a classic case of where many different tools and strategies were incorporated, but at the same time incorporated at a very later stage, not at the planning stage, which led to several delays and people not completely being given the right platform. On the right, the picture that you see is actually displaced, were actually villages that has been that have been converted for the international airport, and people who were displaced from these villages were given places where their livelihoods completely changed. So, for example, if they were fishing, they were sent to areas where there were no water bodies, so they had to figure out what to do. So that also led to. Yeah, so great question from Rashmi Mitkari. So any environment specialist or biological research person involved in all this study. So typically, what organizations or what companies do is they give it to a educational body like a IIT or a TISS, where there are interdisciplinary experts. So you don't necessarily have to have an environmental specialization. You also need to understand, the social dimensions. You need to understand the livelihood and the fisheries dimension. You need to understand, you need to understand the lay of the land, maybe contextual or regional information. So all of this is considered, and you have an interdisciplinary set of experts who usually opine and sign off on the report. Question. All right, no more questions. Mr. Ganesan has put a question here that positive outcome of the airport is also considered. Bhaskar, if you can unmute yourself and talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, positive outcome means like because of this, there could be more cabs running, more employment and all that. So when you have a negative impact, you also have some positive impacts. So
Right.
are these considered together or only the negative thing is considered like?
No, I mean, definitely not. I think, overall the outcome of an infrastructure project cannot be negative, right? It is really giving employment to a lot of people. It is increasing the, tourism in areas. So, but what I'm trying to say, Bhaskar, is that it's important that the environmental conditions of the area, the fragility of the ecosystem of the area is considered and solutionized while you're also creating, and importantly, compensations made to project affected persons are fair and equitable. So there are certain principles that, these kind of projects should follow and are recommended by international standards, so that eventually you don't go into an area of confusion and stoppage of work.
Yeah, clear.
Right. There's a question from Megha. As this is the scope area of environmentalist and other ESG professionals, then how will we as CA, CSCML get work related to this area? As every co will give preference to them above us. Sorry, I don't know the answer to this one. I don't know the answer to this one. I'm not from the CA background. I think this really deals with professional development and professional networks. So if this is of your interest, definitely people with accounting backgrounds are very helpful in a lot of these, especially with the quantitative assessments done as a part of SIA. So definitely something to consider.
I have a question here.
Yes, Lakshmi.
Myself, Lakshmi, and my question is related to the previous slide where you mentioned about the qualitative indicators. So
Right.
largely when there are multiple projects which are spread pan like across India, so if we want to measure something like empowerment, financial empowerment, or women empowerment through SHG, different project area, there could be a lot of variations within the projects. Even though they are focusing on one particular theme, still there will be a lot of variation. So through qualitative, like what could be some of the qualitative indicators that we can use across regions, which are agnostic of the region,
Right.
other than
So,
rating? Rating is one you said. And stories of changes are typically of one or two examples, but that won't help to give a to generalize it.
right. Yeah. So I think it's really important that there are national standards. So this is again something within the purview of what is the law saying, right? What is the CSR saying? So CSR has section. So to just give you an example, if you're asking me how are qualitative indicators measured across a country in the same way
Yes.
in the same way as quantitative indicators are measured, it's not different. It's not different, but it is a lot more complex. Why? Because you are understanding if people have felt better after participating in your project. You are understanding if more women have formed a voice from participating in a project, and it is important to capture that. How you capture that is a strategic decision, but it is possible. It has been done in the past, and it can also be compliant of the laws of the country.
Okay. Can you give me an example how it can be done? Other than rating is something Likert scale kind of thing can be used. Is there any other way that we can like have a common framework to assess, for instance, is economic empowerment? Is there anything such common scales or common thing that we can use?
Yeah, so I think SDGs is a very common thing that people use nowadays. I'll just come, you brought me to my international SIA framework slide, where there is an SDG, I think it's SDG 11 on gender equality.
Hmm.
Okay, so gender equality, an example is that, I was giving you an example earlier about the World Bank scorecard. So let's say that, multiple projects across the country that are funded by the same organization are working on gender empowerment
Okay.
and creating equal societies. It's important that they assess it on certain common tools that are mandated within the SDG. For example, has it led to improvement in the agency of women? How SDG defines gender equality? Okay, and then you create certain indicators within that, and across that you say that okay, 50% women have improved agency and therefore are meeting the goals of SDG 11, which promotes gender equality. I
Okay.
don't have a specific example of an organization that has successfully done a quantitative analysis and captured this. But I have piecemeal examples where qualitative indicators have been very revolutionary in certain decision makings that have happened afterwards.
So you mean these frameworks, it has some standard tools which we can adopt or
Absolutely,
contextualize. Okay.
absolutely, yes,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah. So, sorry, we don't have a lot of time. I have just 1 minute to go. So, I'll just quickly go through these international frameworks like the SDGs, then the OECD and the World Bank's ESIA and ESMP. So, these are very, very important because when international organizations come to, poor countries they call it global South countries like India, they want to make sure that there are certain standards and certain guidelines that are followed in order to ensure that there are no stakeholders left out. And that's the thing that is key that I want to emphasize on. The SDG I have already covered in quite some detail. The OECD is again for businesses, multinational companies, businesses, for making them more responsible. So there are, potential adverse impacts of operations on local communities, workers, and other stakeholders that need to be taken into account. One final example I'll give is on the World Bank's ESIA and ESMP, when I was involved in a project with multiple stakeholders. Well, we did a
Ma'am,
yes,
sorry to interrupt, ma'am, but we have restricted to time. So please
right,
go
yeah.
ahead, ma'am.
Right, yeah. Okay, great. I'll just give my closing points then. Thank you again for this time. And I hope that, I was able to clarify a lot of your questions, and hope to continue, helping you guys out.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for
you.
taking
Thank
session,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you. Yes.
So with the wind up of session of Janvi ma'am, I welcome Jyotsna ma'am. Welcome ma'am. And a very good evening, ma'am.
Yes,
Are you
good
speaker?
evening, good evening. Good evening to you all. Are you audible?
Yes, madam. Good evening.
All right, all right. So nice getting in touch with you. Just let me put on my fan. 1 minute, huh? Just a minute. Yeah. So, in today's session, the practical aspects of, using logic model needs to be dealt by me. So a few days back, I had explained you what logic model is and how logic model works. All right. So at that point of time, just wait. Sorry for this interruption. Oh, I'm here. Yeah. So given the request had come, if practical aspect of logic model be dealt through certain examples. So I have what I did was I tried to look into the project which has been listed out and tried to find out, if I could explain logic model. But since it is the inception stage that the projects are on with in social stock exchange, then I found that it would be good for you to take a mature project which has already performed, so that I can explain you everything across the impact value chain. Yeah. So how it is attended by the logic model, you can see this project is maybe a little complex, but if you can understand, then you'll be able to understand everything about the logic, how logic model works. Okay. So given that, now I'm just going straight away to the project. So I think I can share my screen now. Is there anyone from ICMI? No.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am. I made you the co-host. You can.
All right, very fine. So here it is. So I am going to explain what logic model is. I'm going to the process flow of logic model, how it works. So this is one project which I have handled myself through logic model. So then I'll be able to better comprehend with. So this project was a livelihoods project, and it had we had to attend 42,960 household in 959 villages of 17 blocks in 5 districts of Uttarakhand. And these districts, and these were, how the villages were selected is these blocks were the most food insecure blocks of Uttarakhand. Okay. And the villages chosen were remote, relatively poor villages. And even in that remote and poor villages, the household that were chosen were categorized into 5 categories. And we had left out the people who were well off. Only the categories of people who were really poor, down the line, they were chosen for this livelihood enhancement project. This is in a nutshell, I just would like to tell. And the total project cost over 8 years was 239 crore rupees, out of which 112 crore rupees was the IFAD loan that formed 47% of the project cost. This is us in a nutshell I'm giving. Yeah. So as we dealt, I think you all had participated. How many of you had participated in my last session? Or is it the entirely new group? I really do not know. So
yeah, participated, madam, last session.
Participated. Okay. So this is an overview. What I had done last time, I've tried to put it in this one. Yeah. So goal means impact. I've already told. Yeah. You can.
Are you presenting anything?
Yeah. Why?
We are not able to see.
Oi, oi.
Ma'am, we are able to see.
Give me the permission to present, na? Oh, why it is so? Just wait. Just wait.
Not able to see, ma'am.
Okay. Now see, share screen is coming green. Just wait, huh? That means whatever I had done, just wait. Now I think it will be shared. Can you see now? Can you see now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry for this. Yeah, it's very good. Thank you for bringing this point to the light. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen anything. So understanding the log frame, in practical terms. So I have told Uttarakhand Livelihood Improvement Project for the Himalayas. Since you have already heard, now you are seeing the poorest 42,690 household of 959 villages of most food insecure 17 blocks in 5 districts of Uttarakhand. And we had, even in these villages, 959 villages, the poorest lot were, families were included in the project. And the project cost, if you could see later on, you'll just, I have already told about the project cost also. Now, those who had come last time, this is just a recap, where project fits in terms of goal, impact, overall outcome. Then you can see this project was for 8 years, 2004 and 2012 to 2012. Okay. Now, if you come, then the project impact which the project has committed is by 2022, whereas the project was ending at 2012. Okay. So overall outcome is something which you can, with the given money, you can achieve till the end of the project. All right. So that is it. Now I will disappear later on then you'll come to know what is impact and what is outcome. Now, given that I had already told that the project needs to, move from overall outcome to activities to inputs. All right. So now the project had 6 components. One is pre-project implementation. I have already told last time why it is important. Normally the project component which is put by, in most of the CSR cases, it moves from B to F. That is core activities only they are funding. But it's very important, you have to include pre-project implementation. Fine. So given now, these had 6 components, and B, you can see, first we had to empower and build the capacity of community organization and support other their organization. This is institutional arrangement to bring them together towards the empowerment factor. Yeah. And second, this C component is livelihood enhancement and development. Means you choose livelihood opportunities with them and work with them to make it happen. Yeah. Livelihood support system means, what type of business development support system you can give to them. Yeah. Because they do not know, community do not know, they have the resources, but to churn the resources into products and services, you need this type of services. And obviously this management cost is there. And rural finance is something that if they can perform well in rural business development system, then you need rural finance as a blending capital, as whatever capital to get the value chain organized, to have the economy of scale, to take the products and services to the larger market and enhance their economic activities. So this is something I just want to just wait, again something happened. Kindly wait. Maybe this is the one. Just wait, I pushed one button and something happened again. Just wait. Now I'm again going to get the slideshow done. Sorry for this interruption. Again. Okay. Now it has come. So now you can see the category of household as per well-being ranking. What we have done, see, this type of project has to be very participatory. So the communities were of 4 categories. Vulnerable means they didn't have any asset. Hardcore poor, number 2 types. Number 3 types is hovering above the poverty line, means those type of people with little bit of illness happen, then they will go to the poverty line again. And well-off people. Yeah. So although the number of household in this 959 villages were 63,406, we had targeted only 73%, then 46,680 households. Yeah. So now then they had to be, they had to be organized. They had to be organized and to self-help groups. And this project had expected that women would be organized for getting into economic activities. So now it is very interesting to see, we were working with the poorest lot. Okay. And IFAD financed 47%, and by infusing this 47% fund, the community had to garner 28% of fund from financial institutions. Community, they themselves, although they were poor, they had to give 12%. Okay. And state government, only the project management cost was borne by the state government. That's how this 239 crore rupees and the proportion of fund that had to be mobilized for this project. Now working with the project, and you are expecting some some 30 you can say 40% of the fund could come from financial institutions and communities own partaking into this economic activity. So the project was difficult, but the way the project are designed, the logic framework are set and made to work, it's the project can succeed basically. Yeah. So now I'm moving ahead. So as I have already explained, the component wise financial target for pre-project and empowerment capacity and all this rural finance, we had some 4 crore rupees, 4.1157, it's in lakhs. So and contingencies. So this is how the breakup was. Now I am coming this social wing. Why I am explaining, just briefly I'll explain, because I will go then to logic model. So now the project had 2 wings. One is NGO and one is social venture capital company wing called UPASAK, Uttarakhand Parvatiya Ajivika Sambardhan Company. So social wing did identification, capacity building of the poorest, organizing, strengthening capacity of SHG, Van Panchayats, and capacity of NGOs and community-based organization. Now what this UPASAK did was management and technical support for social enterprise development, business development services for subsector development, equity capital and financial intermediation, because you had some fund, a social venture capital fund also. Yeah. And identify market and investment opportunity and capacity building of micro enterprises. So we expected that this community-based organization, SHG Federation, will get transformed into micro and small enterprises through financial institution and investors capital infusion and their own capital. So now identification of, I have already told, 17 blocks, well-being ranking, 4 categories, segmentation of that I have already told, engaging 95% women, and collective marketing approach, prioritize, we now how this value chain and all, what value chain means, whatever economic activities you take, then obviously you have to know what your value chain is. Basically, either you take off-season vegetables or anything, and umbrella branding, and 7 value chain focused out of earlier project had started with 26 activities with people, but when you move professionally, you have to focus and make it happen. Yeah, so that's how the project had worked, and it had to converge with a number of institutions within the state government, other NGOs, financial institutions, commodity boards, commercial institutions, technical institutions, line departments, and other international agencies who are willing to support this type of cause, and individual consultants and community resource person. Now this was the, now I will come to that time I was telling, whatever you do, what is the normally people think, NGOs think that this is the this is the outcome, but this is not outcome. This is only first level outcome. You have organized community had to be organized 4,000 organizations. Then we could achieve 3,926 membership in the community. We had to organize 42,690 household. We could excel in that one, moved ahead. Yeah, saving, group saving 808 crore rupees. It was 108%, 8.68 crore rupees. Interloaning, it could excel. Number of groups linked with banks, we were little behind. Federations, 52, these are business federations, and linked now group linked with federations also 99%. So group members linked with businesses were up to 90%. Yeah, so why I'm telling value chain is that you see what the type of activities, you focus on those activities, and you make people work on those activities so that it will give them good economic value. If you spread too thin, then it becomes very difficult for people to eke out good income from those activities, and end-to-end support were given. Like the value chain, you can see off-season vegetable number 2, it could be taken off by people hovering above the poverty line. They had water, they had some land, they could invest, they could collaborate and converge on few of the activities. So off-season vegetable, you can see the related activity: vegetable production, collective marketing, polyhouse construction, spice cultivation, rainwater harvesting. Okay, so all these things are needed in the value chain. But if you take broiler is something in the livestock, you can say it's a hybrid between Desi Murga and broiler. So the people who were vulnerable people who did not have any land, so these type of people could take this activity, and it was very remunerative because these were free ranging bird. It could eat anything from anywhere, and but give egg and give good meat to earn the living of, to earn lives, enhance the livelihood, give good income to the landless people. But if you see dairy in the livestock, it could be taken only by the people hovering above the poverty line. And although we had not given any input to the well-off people, but when you develop economy of scale, even well-off people joined into this activity with their own support. So this RNFS is the this is non-farm sector activities, rural non-farm sector activities, community managed retail enterprises. This is also very important because all the input services that comes for conducting all the above activities, like you need pipes, you need some good seeds, you need many inputs. So if community, they have their own shops, then it will be better, they will earn better, and they'll buy products from them, theirs only. Yeah. So now this is the detail of business activity which you can see. ये stop sharing करूँ तो फिर share hide कर दूं इसको?
Yeah, please hide, please.
हाइड कर देती हूँ. हाँ ना हाइड करने से कहीं हाइड हो रहा है ना फिर. अच्छा, okay, now I could know what to do. So given that now you can see in districts, till the end of the project 11, 12, 71 federations were formed, and business turnover was in that particular year was 2.42 crores basically. And these were the business activities. Yeah, I'm just flipping over now just to make you understand. The real issue is somewhere else. Now by the end, the business turnover was to the point of 6.8 crore rupees from 71. I have told, what another one federation was from the cooperative bank. So 72 federation. But now in 2012, the same business federation, they now, with little support from the government, because we had to see the impact in 22, na? Okay. By 2021, there were 233 business federation with business turnover of 35 lakh and profit of 3.68 crores basically. This is during the COVID time. This is a yearly profit. Yeah. So this is how now, if you could see, this was the impact that was assessed at the end. At the end means in 2012. Then we could find why it is increase in percentage, because there was a baseline. Okay. 21% increase in vegetable cultivation, 21% increase in cattle rearing, 10%, 10 like this basically. 236 community resource person earning to the tune of 37 lakh per annum. These were now coming to summing up this ULIP model. This is the financial support services agreement with financial institutions. Now see, they had already, the banks had already sanctioned 33 proposal by the end of the project. That was amounting to 94 lakh rupees. Yeah. Project had invested 96.69 crore for field activities. Formal financial institution invested 39 crores, 40%. Convergence mobilized. Convergence mobilized means, I'll just set the example. If one is making a poly house, project used to give good training to a villager, yeah, and tell them where this your off-season vegetable is going to be marketed, and give all the market support. But to install a poly house, then he had to invest himself. But we again used to go to horticulture department and tell that if you could give subsidy of 50% to this farmer, he'll really able to give results, and government also accepted. Okay, so this is how the convergence work, and this is this fund. And community contribution rupees 21 crore rupees. This is through their SHG, interloaning, etc. Now with working with the poorest, the amount of these three funds that were mobilized were 97.77 crore rupees against the investment done 69 crore rupees. So this proves that this has remained instrumental from moving ahead from subsidy mode to business mode for livelihood promotion with the poorest lot. And now every to take it forward, the sustainability factor I was talking. So every enterprise had their business projections after the project ended. So these were I just wanted to give us snapshot of how they had projected their business and how they worked after the project. and how they could achieve that impact in 2021. Okay. Now I'm going to take you to the hyperlinks. So how the logic model works. Now I'm coming to the real issue at hand. So what is my time now? So let me, try to move. So this is a little small one, but I'll try to make it. Could you see something?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So see, this is the PAD, means project appraisal document. Yeah. Every project has an appraisal document. So here the logic model, as far as it goes, every, like the objective was sustainable improvement of livelihood in mountain people residing in. This project was simultaneously in Meghalaya also, but I'm dealing with only Uttarakhand part. Now replication of several key performance indicator, replication of similar intervention methodology investment project with focus on micro enterprise development with backward and forward linkages. So what happened, replication, with the success of this project's name was Ajivika. Okay. Along with the name, this was taken by the National Rural Livelihood Mission. All right. First, Bihar Livelihood Mission took the lead, they used to come and, learn from here. And with Bihar Livelihood Mission, then it was taken to as National Livelihood Mission. But I am now, not going for all those. I'm going to focus only on this key performance indicator with you all. Okay. Now, now see, the goal is sustainable improvement in the quality of lives and livelihoods of disadvantaged rural household in mountain areas of Uttarakhand by 2022, not by 2012. That is, the end of the project. Now here comes the goal. That is the impact. Okay. Now the overall purpose is their overall outcome. The quality of lives and income of 42,690 household, disadvantaged household in whatever district, in 5 districts, improved through gender sensitive, poverty focused, collective self-help promotion systems and adoption of better livelihood opportunities by the end of the project. Madam, you can only commit to that much, and you can see, when you fix the indicators, key performance indicator, this RIMS means that see, this was IFAD funded project. IFAD had funded 47% of the fund. So they had their own indicators. Okay. This is external, which they would do to prove why they are funded to us. Okay. So this is their result based impact management system of IFAD. Now you can see the key performance indicator. You can see household with improved household asset ownership index. They had their own way to verify it objectively. Okay. Percentage of child malnutrition decrease, weight for age, height for age, ये stunting, girthing बोलते हैं इसको, ये उसके terms में, ये बच्चों को हर एक को लेके उसका height के हिसाब से, age के हिसाब से weight लेते हैं, age के हिसाब से height और girth लेते हैं उनके, तो उनका malnutrition factor कितना कम हो गया पता लगता है. ये IFAD के लिए important था. If I speak in Hindi, is it okay? Can you understand? No one is responding.
No,
Yes,
for us,
madam.
it's okay, ma'am. Only
Yes,
people.
madam.
Okay, but
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
it is okay, madam.
I'll use Hindi in between. Okay. Now
Okay.
that
Yes, you can.
see, now project, now key performance indicator, 50% of the target household raised above poverty line by end of project. We did not tell 100% because project was conscious in committing. Okay. Now dropout rate of girls decreased by 20% in secondary school we could achieve much higher. So this is the overall goal. But now how you, this is the key performance indicator. Now over 50%, this is, a target household by the end of project. So this is now, this is something, the overall outcome. Here also, IFAD had 2 indicators, but other indicators, we as Indians, we thought this would be the better indicator. So over 50% of household report improved access to business development, resources and services. So this was, done in the survey. So, and whatever now green had been, have been put pertinently, I did that. Over 50% women report increased access to community resource person by the end of project. Women report increased income. Yes, obviously they had increased income. So, the indicators had been put, in a manner which could be done, which is practically could be possible, and indicators could be objectively verifiable, and means of verification was also clear. Okay, and it could be measurable or non-measurable means of verification. So it is not necessary that it has to be always measurable. Okay, now outcome, empowerment of capacity building of the community. I'm just taking, so that these are the outcomes. See, yeah. So outcome number 1, this is linked to our component B, which I told. Now these are, you can see it's all measurable again. Yeah, I'm just, see, number of household adopting drudgery reduction technologies, percentage of SHG report that their collective decision making on natural resource management and social issues is accepted by the community, because SHG is a big force to reckon with, for doing good things on the ground. But sometimes women are powerless. So these type of power issues also were, in the, were integrated in the indicators. So these are the overall, outcome of component of, first component. Now to fulfill this, now the second level outcome, the outcome statement, you can see empowerment and capacity building of the community and their organization. I'm just making it smaller so that you'll be able to understand the context. Otherwise, see, first comes the outcome. This is the outcome. So to achieve this outcome, there are outputs. All right, these are the outputs. I'm showing this with this one. These are the outputs. So these are output, and this output has narrative summary. And so narrative summary, and what type of indicator you put, it's here. Yeah, but you can see, I will show at the end. So and secondly, now the outcome and livelihood enhancement, that was component C there, where the livelihood enhancement, you do support through support these SHGs who have formed with some economic activity demonstrations, and to make them adopt new technologies. So given that, see the indicators which you can see here in indicator, I'm just taking you a little. So these are the indicators. See, number of household adopted new technologies in agriculture, horticulture, number of household report production and yield increase by, this was RIMS. RIMS was IFAD wanted this type of thing. Now 26,290 household enterprise established in category more than 80% owned by females, because there was also a gender empowerment factor here. Yeah. Itne hectare of land brought under crop cultivation for at least 2 cropping cycle. Earlier, there used to be only 1 cropping cycle, maybe because of less irrigation or whatever. So number of household provided with long term. So these were the indicators. So given that one, now in terms of output, this was the outcome. See, this was the outcome. So this had to be fulfilled. So every outcome had its own indicator, and these output, livelihood enhancement and development. Now the person trained in livelihood enhancement and development through organization, demonstration, training and all. So nitty-gritty now in terms of, outputs in agriculture, what was the, in horticulture, livestock, broiler, these are all value chains. We did not go very, in a big way, but, in whatever we had focus in value chain, then, these many demo organized capacity build, these are the thing. Okay. Now outcome level 3. This is livelihood support system. Here the role of Upasak was more prominent in enterprise development. So RIMS means IFAD wanted to know enterprise operating after last 3 years. So now given now these are the outcome and input level, narrative summary, I will not go much. So input level portfolio, you can see total revenue generated by Upasak because it was their company. Portfolio at risk, outstanding balance, overdue. So these were the very core, business indicators. Yeah. So the output in terms of, proving these business indicators were Upasak established an operating small enterprises trained to management, business promoter trained and recruited, business development services provided to MSMEs, tech upgradation, credit, policy support, marketing, small entrepreneurs supported with equity fund to invest in small enterprises, and 2,448 backward and forward enterprises limited. So here, for these type of narrative statement, now the number game comes here, what actually you did, and some of these number pertain to IFAD's interest. So outcome in terms of these livelihood support system, there was some microfinance delivery and output in the livelihood support system. The number of livelihood support system in terms of percentage of SHG receiving cash credit limit from rural development department, number of SHGs who have received term loans, percentage of cash credit limit used by SHGs. So this type of the indicators, this did not pertain to us. This was for Meghalaya project, so I am not going more on that. So project management, obviously, number of international project mobilized. We had our own target in terms of, you are doing IFAD project, but how many external projects you have mobilized for this? So we had mobilized regional economic development project from GIZ. At the same time, many other projects were also mobilized from other international agencies also, because success attracts success. Yeah, this could be known. So these type of stuff I just wanted to give you a hands-on exposure. For project management also there were some indicators. Yeah, so this is all about. Now I am coming to the main part, the flexibility part. Yeah, flexibility part is very important in developmental projects. Yeah, so you can see here in the pad project appraisal document, key indicators were very less. You can see these two columns, column number 1 and column number 2. Okay, that's how project was designed, and they had fixed key indicators. Now we had a midterm. As you move on, if the project is growing very well in a very dynamic way, then project itself generates. Here also now we have given responsibility to the NPOs only to generate your indicators. But at least these RIMS are the external indicators which we had to prove ourselves to IFAD. Yes, we did what you paid for. Okay, so this one. Otherwise, these other indicators were for our own management and control. so that, it becomes easy for us to run the project and get the value, assess the value out of this project. Okay. So this is it. Now I just wanted to explain you the value of lock frame and how it maneuvers the project across the project cycle, how one has to be flexible to look into social projects. It is not like finance. Basically, the social things, social innovations are very dynamic. Yeah, once you work with people, you know how one does the business. Basically, yeah, it proliferates, it multiplies on many counts. So you have to catch the until unless you catch the imagination of the people and try to develop your own narrative, which this column has done, as the project has, and have developed the key performance indicator, you will not be able to sustain the project. Yeah, so this is very important, because people have to take forward this project with their own aspirations and imaginations. So this is one part. Now I'm just taking you to the other hyperlink, the original and revised log frame and end term. So let us see what it is there for us to learn in this project. Now whatever were there in third and fourth column in the previous slide presentation, I have put it here. This is something like revised log frame in 2008. Now actual result, how project performed on the indicators that were redesigned by midterm till the end term, it has been given here. So once you are done with the key performance indicator, same thing. Now the type of assessment that is done at the end is given in column 3, actual results. Somewhere we could perform in a very nice manner, somewhere we could not perform. Okay, so this is like, see, women participating in Gram Sabha increase from it talks always about from the baseline. Yeah, so you can see weight from like IFAT's indicator was that how we could, because all the children were malnutrition there. Okay, so how we could improve in the stunting and girthing of the child, which are the indicators of malnutrition. Now the type of indicators it has taken was weight for age from 13% boys, 8% girls to 16, both boys and girls, and height for age 50% oblique 40% to 15 to 70%. That's how it was, the malnutrition was reduced. So these are technical terms. Well-being ranking exercise shows 60% of households in both two poorest categories, that is vulnerable and hardcore categories, moving up in the well-being rank. Okay, because they had their own indicators. Okay, so now I am saying ULIP approach adopted by new National Rural Livelihood Mission and Integrated Livelihood Support Project within Uttarakhand. Okay, that's how the indicators were given us. Challenge was given to us that if your project is successful, so by the end you finish your project, it should have been multiplied in terms of implementation in other projects. So it was multiplied nationally. It was thought to be a good success. Yeah, so given that now 50%, 90% of household report contacting community resource person, so these are all indicators. Like I will not go to all these indicators, but all these indicators you can see it has a incremental baseline. 50% like women involved in household decision increased from 15 to 67%. Women became the commanders of the house, it seems. So women participating in Gram Sabha increased from 37 to 90%. So all pre-project implementation works conducted. And here also you can see 259 women SHG members elected in Panchayati Raj institutions. 0.7% of SHG members got elected. That means they were empowered a lot. Yeah. Although it is only 0.7%, it's a huge thing. Yeah. So 68% of project household report reduced time collecting water compared to 14% in non-project villages. Some comparison was done with non-project villagers at that point of time earlier and this point of time. Yeah. So these type of 90% of SHG all women and all this type of stuff is there. So coming to, I am not going to now go much on this one. I think dealing with questions and answer would be a better idea to now how can I close this one? End of slideshow. Yes. So I have already shared all this with you. So I think I am just coming out. Okay. So given that now you have seen how logic model works. Just wait. I have to stop slide sharing, I think. It stopped?
Yeah, it stopped.
So given now, see, how did you find this presentation of mine?
Yeah, useful, ma'am. We would be able to correlate the outputs and outcomes to the long-term outcomes.
Yeah.
Ma'am, here in this, what I could not perceive is this. Generally, they say the outcomes will also have the negative outcomes, right, as the project is executed. So I did not see those things in this presentation.
See, I have another slide. There were assumptions and risk. Okay, I have not done because I today I wanted to deal with this. This is very essential. But I have got a logical framework, which it has. In fact, in the in the this SSC document, it was me who told Sebi, you have to keep this karke. And I had given them one presentation. Yeah. So assumptions and risk are. Just wait, Hello, I am in a meeting. I'll call you back. So now, given all the assumptions and risk we had taken into factor. Yeah, there are a lot of assumptions and risk basically. If women do not get time, yeah. So that was one part because they were highly drudgery led. Yeah. So the part of drudgery it has dealt. I have not shown that slide, but how we could reduce the drudgery of women was the first issue that had to be attended. That were the biggest risk basically. We are thinking of having the economic activity, but women are very much drudgery led. They cannot give time. So first we had to work with them with a drudgery only. That could save 3 hours of their time to participate
Divert into this.
in economic activities. Okay. And I could cite some of the examples also. I will cite a story. See, one part of drudgery was they had a gagar of tamme ka ghada. That was about 3 kilograms. And what we did was that we worked with the community and one plastic industry. Then we prepared a food grade plastic ghada that was weighing about only 400 grams. Okay. So now with that, the women folk, all these federation became the retailers of ghada. They earned a lot and they spread that ghada. Otherwise, that way also the water carrying, the drudgery they had on their head was reduced a lot. So there are many stories how like this RNFS, rural non-farm sector, they had shops, So even they you know, with Tata they had organized, and they used to take a very good whatever, you know, their service charge from Tatas and many companies to reach their services to the people, but on the same way the community under Lord, basically. Yeah. So one part is drudgery. So another part, it has already taken, why this community based organization, why this, we had to work with some 17 non-profit organizations. It was just to avoid the risk, basically, because the women were illiterate. First they had to be educated, okay, made aware why you are so poor, why, you know, you are so drudgery late, you know, can you improve yourself? And I can cite that they did not understand even the numbers, okay, but we used to explain, we used to take subsidy, you know, Ludo.
Yeah.
And we used to play with them that, you know, if you do not save, then you will come down. Even if you save, but if you do not loan to a proper person, then you will come down. If you do like this, collectively set a meeting, then there's a CD, you will go up. So, you know, that way you have to explain to semi-literate or illiterate people on, you know, numerical literacy. So there were very many ifs and buts, but I did not show this ifs and buts factor today, because I thought that I will, you know, explain this as a core. What I can say is that, you know, as a core subject, to understand the issue at hand, and you know, make our participant relate to these issues, basically.
Yeah, major and essential elements. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any questions from any participants? How you found this presentation?
Namaskar, Mrs. Jeshnaji. I am
Yes,
CMA Rakesh Chaudhary speaking.
Yeah.
I wanted to inquire about the acceptability of the logic framework by the government and the private sector. How much percentage acceptability is there?
Logic framework is the you know, is the only framework, yeah, that is accepted by internationally also. First, you know, whichever externally aided fund projects are there, they always emphasize on logic model to work with. Now, given that within the government also, although, you know, it becomes difficult sometimes for the government to follow, but all this impact based, you know, funding, it government emphasizes you should follow the logic model. Yeah. And even now financial institutions like SEBI is also there. It's SEBI who only told now that all the you know, social stock exchange project has to prepare the project, the proposal document that they will be you know, they will be floating. It has to be formed, you know, based on logic model. So this is it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. See, I have dealt with you know, many external. IFAD is one. I have done World Bank project. I have done EU project. I've done FAO project and GIZ project. All of them, they have emphasized on logic model. So that's how I could, even from within the government, working from within the government, I could get hang of, you know, practicing this logic model in many ways. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. Can you
Good
suggest
evening.
some key points while drafting, executing, and implementing logic model? Some key points to be considered, some key important points to be considered.
Some key important points to be considered.
While drafting logic model.
Now, drafting logic model, see, it's important, as I have told in my last presentation, you have to move always from impact. Okay. What
Yes,
impact you are going to create, like in my presentation today, then you know how you move to, then after you move to the inputs. Normally what happens is that, you know, people are short-sighted. They first see what type of input I can give, and they somehow tell that this will create that type of impact, and no in between. Logic model is, it's the framework for traceability, backward and forward, how your inputs are relatable to your impact. But you have to think first of impact, then only move towards the overall outcome, then intermediary outcomes, then what type of output will lead to that outcomes, and what type of activity you need to perform for certain level of different outputs, and then for that activity what type of resources needed goes as input. All right, so we'll be missing wood for the trees if we move from input to impact. So this is the main mantra, and if you follow this, then everything fills in logically. And I can say that once you do this, then only you will be able to set KPIs, key performance indicators. Yeah. So at least I think I could show in my last presentation. 1 minute, huh? Although I have shown, I think I have to. I will just show, please give me, because someone is asking, so I think it's good to see these only I told, na? Could you see my presentation or not? No.
No,
Hello?
ma'am. No,
Just
ma'am.
wait.
It's not.
Just wait. I'm just showing it to you so that you'll be able to relate everything. Now, this is this I had shown last time. So this is it. Yeah. Framework to be used for impact planning. So this way you can see pre-project implementation is very important. Now, your long-term impact is here. Yeah. That's why it's 1, 2 outcome level. That's what I told, within one activity, there could be many inputs. Yeah. If I am to form one SHG group, then I have to educate them one input. Maybe, I have to, bring them together. There has to be some dari mat to sit, even, once a week. So all these type of things are input. Maybe one motivator, village motivator to, help them bring together. So all these type of things are there. So, with this one, you can see input for each activity. Now there are KPIs. So for each activity, there could be KPIs. Mostly KPIs are very important as you come to intermediary outcomes here. You could see in that project of mine where I had explained everything. Now, intermediary, these needs to be measurable and non-measurable, but objectively verifiable. And as our friend from ICMI told, the assumptions, limitation, and risk in creating overall outcome or immediate outcome, it has to come here. Yes, but if to achieve this, but if type, if this does not happen, then I'll not be able to. So what are the mitigation measures? Here it need to come. So this is how the the project is designed using logic model. Fine. So any questions?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So was it useful?
Yes, ma'am.
Very much, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Madam, can you share your PPT, please?
Yeah, that can be shared. Yes. Here I cannot. Maybe I will share with who is there from ICMI?
Yes, ma'am.
So I will be sharing to them. Yeah. That is fine.
Yes, ma'am. They will share to us.
Yeah, that is fine, madam.
Yes. So I think we can stop here, huh? Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
See the chat. I think no one, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, madam.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
bye.
Bye bye.
Wish you all the best. Bye.
Thank you.